สวัสดีครับ I'm Point from ค้นพบ Merry Christmas May you have a lovely joyful peaceful time with friends and family or wherever you are or if you are by yourself or in solitude may you take this opportunity to find the peace within and happiness within Okay let's get right into it Self-sabotage part 2 If you haven't, please do be sure to check out the previous video in part 1 because the two go together and we're going to build upon from the previous discussion. Now, as you can see, in the last week, we used the help of an example about relationships to demonstrate one way in which self-sabotage can happen or how it can play out. And there we discussed the habitual patterns of negative thinking, negative attitudes, black and white thinking, black and white attitudes, or we could call extreme thinking because there's no middle ground. And number 3, how there's a desire for control. In other words, over-controlling behaviors. And desiring control also includes overthinking because what you're trying to do by overthinking is you're trying to control or gain some sense of understanding. Okay, and how these are some factors out of many more that contribute or can be found in self-sabotaging behaviors. Excuse me. But if you'll notice that what these patterns have in common is they lead to emotional reactions. They serve to create emotions. They stir you up emotionally. The negative attitudes, the black and white thinking, the desire for control, and many more causes you to work yourself up emotionally. So we could say that self-sabotaging behavior, whichever form it may take, really has an underlying emotional reason behind it. It's about emotional reactions. And if you notice the taste or the tone of these emotions, as a result of these patterns of negativity, black and white, over-controlling behavior, it gets you to feel powerless, helpless, perhaps hopeless, or a victim to the circumstances or the situation in some way, some shape, some form, in some sense. These emotions get you to feel and believe that things are happening to you and that you're powerless or don't have the ability to do anything about it. Okay? Now, I guess you can see where I'm going here, that if the underlying cause of self-sabotage has a huge factor to it, which is an emotional component, then therefore the way out or the solution is to first teach yourself to be able to cope with, to tolerate, and to accept these emotions for the experience that they are. To teach yourself and to train yourself to be grounded as you learn to allow the experience of the emotions to play out. In other words, it is the emotional self-awareness skills which one must develop. We could call this emotional self-awareness, emotional intelligence, emotional coping skills, emotional tolerance skills, whichever way you want to think about it or call it. But in essence, what it really boils down to is your ability to train yourself to get to the point where you are able to sit with those emotions that come up, those negative emotions that you create through the negative thinking, black and white thinking, obsessive behaviors, and many more. The ability to sit with it, to accept it for what it is in your field of awareness, to not judge it, to not try to control it directly, to not try to manipulate it, force it, change it, stop it. To be able to confront them or confront it mindfully. And to realize that you can still remain centered and grounded and stable despite these seemingly disturbing emotions. You're teaching yourself, you're teaching your brain, you're training your mind to understand that in truth, emotions do not have the ability to overpower or to control you until you believe that it does. In other words, if you are aware of your emotions, then you can regain control. Think about that for a moment. So how do we train ourselves to develop these coping skills, these emotional self-awareness skills? Well, as I'm sure you can see, as we've discussed in many of our previous videos, of our previous discussions, that the way these emotions play out is they play out on many levels, even though they're essentially the same part of the same process. So first of all, you have these negative thinking styles that we discussed last week. Negative thinking, black and white thinking, wanting control, obsessive controlling behaviors, which are nothing more than habits of interpretation, habits of perception, which come from your limiting beliefs that you hold around that particular subject. So then, once you have these limiting beliefs that causes you to be inclined to think in that negative way, in that black and white way, in that obsessive, over-controlling way, you begin to notice that, there it is, there's that negative pattern in my mind's mental chatter. So you notice the thoughts that appear on a mental level. You understand the psychology behind it, as we've discussed. So you understand through mindfulness, through observing yourself objectively, without needing to react to it or control it or stop it. Watch it for what it is. You begin to see, there's the mental chatter. There's a psychological reason. Now this gravitates towards an emotion. And the emotion translates to a physical bodily feeling. Perhaps you feel an empty heart, a churning stomach. Your knees feel weak. Your arms and fists clench up and tighten up. Your chest tightens up as you feel those disturbing emotions. Sit with it. Confront them mindfully. Accept them without needing to judge it, to try to control it directly, to try to change it or manipulate it or stop it or suppress it. Just allow them to be, at least in that moment of time. And you will begin to see that they are just experiences. You begin to see that those thoughts in your mental chatter are just thoughts. Thoughts are not reality. Feelings are not facts. Emotions are just an experience. It's not reality itself. And all these things are produced from within. You begin to understand that, wait a minute, in one sense, you're causing yourself to work yourself up emotionally. And if you're able to sit with this without trying to control it, without trying to manipulate it, without trying to judge it, without labeling it as bad, without labeling and judging the emotions as bad, right? Without demonizing it, just observe it mindfully with a sense of curiosity, a sense of wanting to learn about yourself, understanding yourself. Without trying to run away from it, then guess what? You begin to realize that you are in control because you have awareness on your emotions. You are in control, not those emotions. Yes, they may feel strong. Yes, they may feel intense, but they do not have the power to swipe you off your feet, to sway you off your center, to control you until you believe that it does, and until you give it the power to. And you will believe that it has the power to control you, or in other words, you will believe that your emotions can overpower you as long as you don't have the awareness of what's going on. This is why awareness is important. You begin to develop and cultivate more stability, inner strength, because you're able to accept the emotions for what they are without trying to suppress them or run away from them or react to them out of fear. You begin to realize that, wait a minute, you don't need to be afraid of your emotions. Wait a minute, you don't need to be under the tyranny or torment of your emotions. You begin to get some perspective, as if you are stepping back and looking at it for what it is, and you develop perspective on it. You develop self-understanding, self-insight, psychological insights, whatever you want to call it. As teachers like Eckhart Tolle would say, you disidentify from your thought patterns and your emotional patterns. And that gives you a field or a sense or a space of relief. And only from this place can you begin to see the connections between your limiting beliefs, the negative thought patterns, the black and white thought patterns, the over-controlling behavior patterns, and the emotions and the self-sabotaging behavior as a result. Only from this place of more clarity, more stability, can you begin to see your limiting beliefs that cause this self-sabotage, cause these emotions. You begin to see them for what they are. And you begin to be inclined or encouraged to challenge and change them. And that's how you overcome self-sabotage. Now, before I go on, I want to borrow some of the teachings from Rupert Spira, who is a spiritual teacher that I highly respect and admire and follow his work, and who many other people and other students also respect and follow his work. Now, a friend of mine shared with me one of his video clips taken about 9 years ago called Going into the Heart of an Emotion. And in that clip, he really does an excellent job, a very clear job in guiding us to understand what an emotion really is. And I'll paste the link to the video in my YouTube description box or in the comment if you're watching this video in Facebook. Please be sure to check that video out because they go well together with this one. I think it really adds to a deeper, more profound level of understanding. And I can't nearly explain it as well as Rupert Spira can. So please be sure to check it out. But what I want to draw from that is essentially what Rupert Spira is trying to teach us is that when you get upset and you have emotions around that feeling of being upset, say, for example, somebody says something upsetting or hurtful to you, and you feel upset, you feel hurt, and you have emotions around it. What Rupert Spira is teaching us is that if you really get to the bottom of it and you really look at it for what it is, you will notice that this self or this person or this identity which has been upset or is angry or is hurt, that thing doesn't exist. It's only your mind's projection that's built on concepts and constructs and belief systems. It is the story that your mind tells you and tries to get you to believe. And if you can take a moment to step back and remove yourself far enough from that emotion to see what's going on, you can disidentify from them. And when you disidentify from your emotions, it will no longer have power over you because you begin to see that it's just an experience. It's just a sensation that arises in your body or in your mind on a mental, physical, and psychological level. And you begin to see that those physical feelings, say your chest is tightened up, your stomach is churning, your knees are weak, your arms and fists are clenched because you're angry or whatever it may be, you begin at that sensation in and of itself is just a sensation. It serves no purpose. And once you have this perspective, only then can you free yourself from the grip and the tyranny and the torment of the emotions. And I think that these teachings, what these teachers are saying, are also in line with and pointing to the same direction as, say, insights that you can generate and cultivate from, say, vipassana meditation or insight meditation, right? Which is often taught by Buddhist teachers. They're really saying the same thing, aren't they? We're cultivating deeper and deeper levels and layers of emotional insights and self-understanding. So, once you get to this point, by training yourself to feel into your body, watch the mental chatter in your mind, observe the patterns, feel into the emotions, and realize that you are still stable, you're still centered, you're still grounded, and that they cannot hurt you, right? Only then can you begin to develop larger and bigger perspective. Only then can you challenge and change the limiting beliefs behind these self-sabotaging behaviors. So, you will notice that a belief is nothing more than a thought you keep on thinking. It's a result of these psychological impressions or conditioning on your mind that you have allowed yourself to accept, whether you realized it or not, throughout time, until they become a habit. And you begin to see that these limiting beliefs are oriented in a way to get you to look outwards, looking outside yourself, finding some place outside yourself as a place of blame or a place of the cause of your suffering. And remember, we've talked about this in previous videos. If you look outside yourself, in one sense, you're misunderstanding reality. Because in essence, your experiences are always created from within. Failure to understand this will lead to a misunderstanding of reality. And when you misunderstand reality, you look in the wrong place and you cause yourself to suffer. You'll begin to see that these limiting beliefs are predicated on you, say, looking back into the past and blaming the past, looking outwards to somebody else's words that they said towards you, and believing that they have the power to hurt you. So, as we've discussed before, you're giving your power away, you see? They're just habits of perception. They're just limiting beliefs. Nothing more than a habit of interpretation. Nothing more than a thought that you keep on thinking. So you begin to see, as long as you have regained your stability, your clarity, and your centeredness, in being able to sit with and accept your emotions, you begin to see that, wait a minute, I can challenge and change these limiting beliefs. And you begin to look for other evidence, because there's plenty of evidence all around you. You begin to look for other evidence that is more empowering, slightly more empowering, more positive, or slightly less negative. And have the wisdom to select evidence that your current belief systems allow you to accept. Because if somebody who's negative, very, very negative, is asked to think positively, yeah, forget it, that's not going to happen. You see what I mean? Their belief systems currently, where they are at, cannot allow them to accept that more positive way of thinking. So, have the wisdom to understand the boundaries of your current belief systems and try to stretch it towards more positive, more empowering thoughts. But at the same time, don't try to overdo it. Otherwise, you can't genuinely and authentically and really believe it. You must look for evidence that you can genuinely accept and choose evidence and choose ways of interpreting your experiences in a way that is more empowering, more positive. What does empowering mean? Empowering means you realize that it's not about what's happening out there, but it's about what's happening inside you and how you choose to respond to the situation. That's what empowering is. So choose ways of thinking that get you in line with realizing how capable you are, how much of a ability and capability that you have or can learn to develop. Here's a good thought experiment to help you with this one. If your friend came to you and consulted you on the same issue that you're going through, what would you say to your friend? Right? You wouldn't lie to your friend. You would say kind things that you genuinely believe and see in your friend. You would get your friend to see that, hey, you gotta be kind to yourself. Be gentle with yourself. You're way better. You're way more capable than you previously have been giving yourself credit for. See that? You would say that to your friend, right? You would genuinely and authentically mean it. Now, take those thought experiments that you would apply to your friend and transplant them to you yourself and begin to process it. To process it means to really think about it, really interpret it, really see it. And this is how you gradually work your way out of these limiting beliefs that cause self-sabotage. Again, in a nutshell, you must first train yourself to be grounded in the present moment, to not react to your emotions. And remember, this can be a bit of a tricky thing because if you're trying to run away from your emotions, you're trying to stop it or suppress it or force it or change it, that's actually also reactions. It's also emotional reactivity nonetheless. So train yourself to be accepting of what it is as it plays out in the present moment. In other words, be at peace with where you're at. Be at peace with where you're at. We're all humans. We all experience emotions, positive and negative. Certainly, I do too. I have bad days too. I have tough days too. I have doubtful days too. I have days where I get lost in my limiting beliefs too. But the skill set here that we must learn to cultivate and practice is to step back, be kind to yourself, and gain perspective that what matters is to do the best with what you've got. Be mindful, watch it, and realize that that negative emotion too will pass. And train yourself to interpret and look at the situation in a slightly more powerful, helpful, empowering way, based on you getting yourself to realize your own true capabilities and strength that you previously have just been overlooking. See? Alright, I hope this was helpful. I hope this was valuable. Train yourself to stay centered emotionally. Don't react to your emotions. Don't try to change it or suppress it. Watch it mindfully. And from that place, you understand that you are in control, not your emotions, not your belief systems. Then, tease and observe and inquire or contemplate on the limiting beliefs behind that self-sabotage. And encourage yourself to select a more empowering, helpful, positive way of looking at it that you can genuinely believe, bit by bit, step by step. And that's how you gradually step out of these patterns or traps of self-sabotage. Share with me what you think. If you do like the video, please give it a like and share and comment and subscribe. I do appreciate it. It would help me a lot. Until next time, สวัสดีครับ